Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to our webinar. A couple of housekeeping items. As you'll see on this screen, you can keep your control panel open by clicking on view and then unchecking auto hide. So that's important because I know myself it's very easy to get lost in space here on these things. Your audio will be muted during the session, so we're asking you to submit your questions and comments in the questions panel, or you can raise your hand if you really want to be unmuted and you can talk to us. My name is Maria Moriarty and I work here at Alpha Plus, and I'm presenting this webinar today with the terrific support of my colleague Matthias Sturm, also from Alpha Plus, obviously, and Matthias will be taking care of chat throughout the webinar. So lots of questions, lots of comments, very welcome. I should also note that today's presentation will be recorded. You can start recording anytime now, Matthias, and it will appear on the Alpha Plus webpage, alphaplus.ca, in our webinars archive. If you want to tell people about that, that would be great, and we will send you a link once it's up. I'm going to talk about a lot of, well, I'm going to draw on, I should say, a lot of other resources as we look at Slack today, and I will send you a list of links to the articles and information that I talk about. Okay. So this is about me. I'm Maria Moriarty. I've worked at Alpha Plus for a couple of decades now, and what I do now is tech coaching and planning with individual programs across the province of Ontario. And I also facilitate presentations and workshops with a real focus on how instructors, students, volunteer tutors, and program staff can use digital technology for teaching, learning, and program administration. I actually am a little younger in reality than my picture shows, but it's one I like, so that's why I share it with people. So today we're going to take a look at an online platform called Slack. We're going to look at what Slack is. I take a quick tour, a short video, look at some of the features and potential benefits, have a think and I hope a short conversation, or the first of many conversations, about how we could use Slack in the adult literacy field. And also there are two, I mean, Slack is essentially free, but I'll talk later. You can also purchase Slack for nonprofits and Slack for education, which gives you some extra features, so we can talk about that too. At the end of the presentation, we will give you a link evaluation survey, and we would very much appreciate if you could fill out the survey. It really helps us as we plan webinars, and lets us know what we're doing right and lets us know what we need to improve, and that's very important for us. I want to just point out the subhead here, which is Slack is a kind of our national office in the cloud. And just bear that in mind as we're going through the webinar. This is from a not-for-profit organization. This is a quote from them. They're a not-for-profit in the United States. They have offices across the country, and they use Slack for all of their internal communication, and everything lives in the cloud. So now I'm going to run a little poll, at least I hope I'm going to run a little poll. Let's forget how to do these things. And if you could just answer, that would be great. And we'll know, have you heard about Slack? And just tell me yes or no. Okay, so we have 2/3 no and 1/3 yes. 33% yes, 67% no. That's great. Okay, so for those of you who have used polls, I wonder if you could tell me you could answer another question, which is, how do you use Slack? And so, whoops, I'm going to close that one. And I'm going to open this one, I hope. So if you could tell me how you use Slack for internal communication, communicating with colleagues, communicating with friends or family, or in your project work. So if you wouldn't mind answering those questions for me, let me just launch that poll. Okay. Okay. So everybody is using it for communications, mostly with colleagues, but nobody seems to be using it internally within their organization. And 1/3 of you are using it for project work. So that's great. So we're all on the same page. Okay, I think that's it for now. So a significant number of people are using it for communication with colleagues. That's kind of interesting. All right, so I'm going to move on. Well, first I'm going to move this out of the way. So what is Slack? It's an instant messaging and collaboration tool. And these are the major features of Slack. You can create public and private channels based on topics, themes, subjects. You can direct message individuals or groups. You can share files, and that includes documents, PDFs, and images. You can set it up so that you get notifications on your desktop or on your tablet or on your phone. And Slack has a pretty robust search feature, which enables you to search by keyword through all of the items in your Slack. And I think that's a pretty good feature, and we'll get into that a little more as we go on. And I want to just show you very quickly how Slack works. So if you can bear with me, I'm just going to nip out of this presentation and send you to a little video, which is a sort of an overview, a very, very brief introduction to Slack and how it works. So let me just see if I can do this. It's not really working. Oops. Going to go back, sorry. Silly. It's not going to work there. Okay, so sorry, folks. I'm losing it here.
The video link in the chat now?
Yeah, can you please send the link, put the link in chat? That'd be great. So that you can see the link. Okay, here we are. Hope you can hear this. It's very brief.
Welcome to Slack. Slack is a new kind of messaging. What's different about Slack is that you conversations with channels. You can create channels for comments, conversations, anything you like. Public channels are open. That's More transparent.
Oops. So here we are. Oops, I want to do my slideshow from the current slide, and it's not letting me. So I'll just do it from the beginning again. So you can see from that that Slack is easy to use, and it has a lot of functionality. I mean, I know that video in a way is annoying because it's kind of zippy and doesn't seem to have much to do about anything we work in literacy, but bear with me. I think you'll see that it has many features that could be of benefit to the field. And now you have the link to that video, so you can go in and watch it again or show it to colleagues. So I should have really labeled this slide what you can do with Slack. The channels are the building blocks. You can create channels. They can be public, or you can make them private, so that only people you invite can participate in that channel. They're arranged by theme or topic or project. You can also, if you're in many channels, you can start channels that are most important to you, so they will come up first. You can get notifications, as you saw in the movie, and you can do that on your desktop, on your mobile device. You can get email notifications, so you'll always know what's going on in your Slack. If you want to, you can communicate directly with individual members of your team, or individually with groups of up to 8 people, like 8 separate individuals. And that means that you can have side conversations, you can have one-to-one conversations, which can sometimes be very, very useful. You can also share documents, photos, and PDFs. So you can share files, so you can work collaboratively. And that's a way that a lot of people use Slack. They use it when they're working on specific projects. And you have that comment feature, which means that you can work on documents together. So those are the major features of Slack. Those are the things that you could do with it. Now we're going to try to think about, as we go through this, how you could use those channels, notifications, direct messages, and file sharing in your work in adult literacy. But first, I just wanted to briefly look at Slack versus email. I'm not really setting them up in opposition. I'm just saying what the features of each are and how they're slightly different. In Slack, as I said, you have those channels which are public and private, and they are organized by theme or topic. In email, we're always dealing with reply all. I don't know if you've ever tried to organize a meeting and then 90 people hit reply all to say which date they can make it on, and it can get a little tiresome. You have message threads in Slack because you're organizing everything by topic, so you avoid the long email chains. So it's very easy to keep focused on what it is that particular team is talking about in that particular topic. There's also a privacy element. You can create Slack channels that are private, so only people who you invite can participate, can read, can see. In email, sometimes we have unsolicited messages. I would say, on balance, having used Slack myself at work and just reading about it, that it's for less formal communication within organization or groups, and that you use email for more formal communication with clients or partners or funders, perhaps. If you have any comment about that, those of you who are using Slack, please just pop it into the chat box. And I think I might see a chat in there. Let's just, is there somebody asking us a question, Matthias? Oh, okay.
There's David.
The video is hard to hear. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. So I think you'll just have to bear with me and watch it in your own time. It takes about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, I think, that video. It's a very good brief introduction. A little bit on the hipstery side, but still entertaining.
So David has
Sorry?
a question. When would you
Yes?
use Slack rather than Google Groups, Yahoo Groups, Wigio Groups, Facebook private groups, or another free online group format?
Well, I think that they will come to, you'll see that some of the features later that are more robust than some of those. I think the thing about Slack is this public and private. I know you can create groups within platforms, but it seems to me the search feature of Slack is very, very useful. And the message threads are very, very useful. That's really where I would see the difference. I don't think it's necessarily an either or. I think it goes to purpose. What are you trying to do? If you're trying to have a conversation, a work conversation with a group of people, you really don't want everybody else involved. You really don't want, maybe you want to have it completely private. Then I think Slack is a pretty good option. And because it's searchable, it's very easy to find information, find posts about a particular topic or theme. Do you think that answers the question? The other thing I thought about as I was putting this presentation together was, you know, I'm mature enough to have used message boards and bulletin boards online. And Slack is a little bit like, you know, a 21st century bulletin board, but it has much more functionality. It has the threading functionality, and it also has the search functionality, and I'm very taken with that. It's also archivable, so things stay in Slack, they don't disappear. So it means that they live on, and you can go back and revisit or rebuild or build on your topics, your themes, your channels. So I just want to take a look at some of the features so that you get a better sense of what Slack looks like. It's free. Now it's free, but I'm going to come to that later. There are paid, of course, versions as well, but it is free and open. The interface is quite friendly and user-friendly, fairly intuitive. A small amount of time needed to become familiar with the basic functionality. It's very easy, as you could see, perhaps not here, but see in that video. It's just like using text chat or Google Chat. The other good thing about it, I think, is that it's cross-platform. So you can use the Slack app on your iOS or your Android device, and that makes it pretty useful for groups of people who are using different devices. It also has fairly powerful customization. That means that well, you can do things like customize the theme, or you can customize colors, and that's all lovely, but you have a lot of preferences that you can set up as to how you get notified, etc., etc. And those things can be very useful in the long run. The other very interesting thing, and we'll get more into this in a minute or two, is the ability to integrate other tools that you're using into your Slack. And I think that's what makes it, you know, I mean, Slack is getting a lot of really good press on the internet anyway from people who are using it. And the app integration piece is what a lot of people are very impressed with. As I keep saying, the search, and I'm revealing my actual previous life in libraries, where I love when you can search something and it's a good, robust search, and there is such a thing in Slack. It's very easy to find what people have been talking about. You can search topics, and you can search within channels. So that's very useful.
Maria?
Yes?
We have a couple of questions. One
Yes.
from Chris, who's asking,
Yes?
is there, and how easy, so yes, there is an app, but how easy is the app or mobile version to use?
It's super easy. I got my first smartphone very recently, and one of the first things I did was install the Slack app, and it works a dream. It's absolutely simple.
And then Susan is asking, how does the search function work? Does it work by
Just
message
by
title,
keyword.
message content, or both?
Both. It's both. And there's just a simple search box, and it's a keyword search. So it's searching everything.
Thanks, Maria.
Okay? You're welcome. So back to this integrating apps in Slack. When I first heard about this, I will admit, I thought, oh, I can't take this. My head is going to explode. But then the more that I looked into it, the more I saw how this could be very, very useful. You can integrate your Twitter feed, so it brings your tweets directly into your Slack. That can be very, very useful for Twitter users in particular who seem to need to check their Twitter all the time. Dropbox, and I'm a big fan of Dropbox, you can share your Dropbox files in Slack, and it keeps all your shared information in one place. And I think that can be very, very useful. SoundCloud, I don't know who uses SoundCloud, but many people in literacy apparently do. I haven't used it myself. But you can post tracks, your recordings, into a designated Slack channel. So again, if that's something that you're doing in your program, that can be one place where you can go and listen to what you have produced or what your students have produced. So that again could be a very useful feature. But I wanted to show you is the number of apps that you can integrate into Slack. I think is something close to 400. But I just pulled this off the Slack site under communication. They have them categorized in various ways, and I chose the communication one, and this is just the first few. So I can integrate Google Hangouts into my Slack. I can integrate Trello, which is a very, very useful project management tool. I can integrate all of my RSS, all of my feeds into my Slack. I can integrate Skype. I can integrate things like Aperion, which is video conferencing, and Screen Hero, which is screen sharing. And I can also integrate MailChimp, which is online email. We use MailChimp at Alpha Plus. It's how we send out our newsletter. It's how we send out last-minute invitations to our webinars to make sure everybody knows about them. So as you can see, just from this relatively short list, and believe me, compared to all of the apps that they list, this is a very short list. You have a lot of functionality here that can draw a lot of the tools that you're already using in your work into your Slack and increase, I guess, your efficiency. Slack uses the tagline, be less busy. I would somewhat disagree with that, but I think that, in fact, what it can do is help you to manage your time better across a lot of tools rather than having to jump from one to the other. It can all be in one place. So are there any questions? Yes? I see a question there, Matthias.
Nope, sorry, I don't see one. Anybody has a question?
Oh, I see one, maybe. Huh? No, I think not. Okay, oh yeah, it's still coming up. I'll just click to, oh, I see. You just put in my Slack guides.
Yes.
That's
yes,
what it was. Yeah, and that's actually, thanks for doing that.
And do you also
remind me
put in the guides for the team creators and admins?
Yeah, do, please. The other thing I noticed as I was looking into Slack is that they have created these Slack guides. Matthias has just put the link into the chat box, so I grabbed that if I were you. They're very good. They're very well written. They're very clear. They're very straightforward. It tells you everything from how to create yourself a Slack account to how to integrate apps. And for each of the apps, they'll tell you exactly how to integrate that app. So I think it's an excellent example, I think, of being a very user-friendly set of guides. I think they've really done so. Maybe they've been adult educators in a previous life, so they know how to actually share information in a useful way. Okay. Now, I said earlier, Slack is free. Nothing is free. We know that already. Slack is free, though, and this is their commitment, that Slack will be free for as long as you want for teams of all sizes. So you start out using Slack for free. You can move to a standard plan if you want to. And the reasons you might want to, there are actually three levels of Slack. There's free, there's standard, and they think it's professional. For example, at the free level, you get 5 gigabytes of storage free, which is quite a bit. If you decide to go to the standard plan, you get 10 gigabytes. With the free one, you can integrate 10 apps in free. But if you go to the standard version, it's unlimited. In the free version, 10 kilobytes, 10K of your message archive is searchable for free, and it's unlimited in standard. So you see where we're headed with this. In actual fact, for most of us, the free version is just fine. But if it becomes, if we're using it a lot, or in large organizations perhaps, or large groups, then it might be worth going to the standard. But it looks kind of pricey if you go to the standard. I would think the free is just fine. But I thought I ought to let you know that. And they have made that commitment that it's going to be free. So let's hope they stick to it. So what can you do with Slack within our field, within adult basic education and adult literacy? A lot of organizations in the not-for-profit sector say, and I will send you the links, as I said, to these articles and pieces, Slack can be used quite effectively to build community. And so this is what I came up with in reading those pieces and in thinking about how we might use Slack to build community within our own field, to help us to stay connected. We could have discussion groups with specific people around specific topics, things that are of particular importance to us. We can create channels for each one of them. We can maybe get ourselves organized by integrating other communication tools like Google Hangouts, Google Drive, project management tools, etc., so that in our groups, in our channels, everyone can see what's going on at the same time. We can have private conversations with peers and colleagues, people that we are in channels with or not. So again, it's a pretty powerful way to have those conversations, those water cooler, as they call them, conversations, those corridor conversations. And, you know, in our field, we have fewer and fewer and fewer opportunities to have those real face-to-face get-togethers where we do hash out what's on our minds in groups or one-on-one. You can use tags to send special notifications. So you want to alert somebody to a particular conversation that's going on, to a particular idea. You can send a special notification to a specific colleague. As we said earlier, you can share files. You can share JPEGs, that's photographs, PDFs, Office files, Google Docs. And for each of the documents, each one has its own comment stream. So you can give feedback, you can work together on a document, share your thoughts and ideas. So I think in terms of building community, there is real potential here. And I think it's something that we should think about in our field as a way to help us connect and work with each other. So are there any more questions?
Yes, there's a question from Fritz who's asking, will there be any barriers between communicating with members with a free version with those to standard?
No. No. There's no, they'll you know, because you're controlling it, right? When you set up your Slack and you decide, okay, I'm going to open a channel on, you know, let's see, what could we, assessment. I want to talk to people about assessment in adult literacy. So I'm going to ask people to join me in this discussion. They're going to need to have a Slack account. That's all. Then you create your team. You invite your team members to join you in this channel. So you start talking about assessment. You start writing to each other. And then somebody comes in and says, well, I'm actually more interested in just talking about, for now, intake assessment. So you can start another channel, intake assessment, invite people to join that channel. So in that way, there's no barrier to communication because you're in charge of, like, whoever starts the channel gets to invite whoever he or she wants to join it. And within that channel, you talk only to the members within your team. That makes sense, Chris?
Thanks, Maria.
Okay. So I thought I'd give you some examples. I found that a lot of charities, we call them nonprofits, but they call them charities in the UK. They have a much richer vocabulary, I find. I just noticed that a lot of them were using Slack, so I went and had a look at why they were using it. And what I noted was they're using it for internal communications. If you know, it's a large organization or they have multiple sites, they use it to communicate with each other in project work, in their day-to-day work, etc. They're also using it for project management. There's, you know, if they have people who work in virtual work environments or in different centers or sites, they stay connected around work by using Slack. They're also using it for board business. So boards of some of these nonprofits use Slack as their means of communicating with each other. And since they can share documents, they can do things like minutes or motions or whatever it is they're working on. If they're working on strategic planning, if they're working on fundraising, it can all happen in Slack. And I just put in this little quote because I thought it was really helpful in understanding how some of the features could work. There's password protection. Everything that you post is, or everything you upload or share in terms of documents, is only accessible to the Slack team that you've created. You can set up multiple channels related to different topics. You can either make them public, meaning everyone in your particular team can see it, or private. For example, and that was what I was just saying, board meeting minutes. So they can only be viewed by invited team members. So this means that you can do a lot of work in relative security using Slack. And without a whole lot of effort, you can set up these channels and you can decide whether or not they're public or private, et cetera, et cetera. So currently being used, that's what people are reporting. So it seemed to me that that makes it, you know, pretty useful for us in adult literacy. Now, I got introduced to Slack at work at Alpha Plus because we use it. And I will admit, full disclosure, when we were first asked to take a look at it as a platform, I mean, I did groan because I thought, like, we're using Google Drive, I have email, do we need another one? But I've been converted. I see that it works pretty well. We need to talk about a lot of things and we don't work together in the same space. We need a way to be able to stay on topic, share information with each other, share documents with each other. So I've just taken a screenshot of Slack at Alpha Plus. And this is my Slack, so you'll see my name under Alpha Plus. These are the channels that we have. And I opened General in one, so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Alan, R-E-D, wrote to everybody saying he was at an online meeting and he used a tool called Uber Conference. And it's free up to 10 users, etc., and wondered if it was something that we thought we should be using. He was able to include a link to Uber Conference so we can go see what it was like. So for that kind of thing, it's very good. We have all kinds of other channels going on simultaneously, where if I'm talking to Matthias or I'm working with Matthias about iPads, using them in the field, then we have a channel for iPads. If we're talking about our IT consulting, coaching, and IT planning, we have a channel for that. We're working on cloud backup services and what's appropriate for adult literacy programs, so we have a channel about that. So anybody in that particular team can jump in and contribute to that. So I do actually find it very, very useful, and I find that we do use it every day. Whereas at the beginning I wasn't so sure, but I am convinced now. And I asked my colleagues for their opinion, and I heard back from Guylaine, my colleague Guylaine Vinette, and she says the grouping by channel makes it easy to follow a conversation. And I think anybody who's gotten stuck in a long email chain will understand that, because you can really focus. Okay, today we're talking about iPads. In this channel, I'm talking about iPads, so that's what we're going to talk about. Alan, our ED, finds it very helpful because people aren't always available, so you might email somebody, they get back to you 3 days later, but the conversation has moved on, etc., etc. So he finds it very useful, the way that we can separate it by topic or subject. We also use Google Hangouts, and we used to in the past use ICQ, but he finds that Slack is much more useful because of that ability to separate by within the team by topic or subject. So it keeps things nice and neat and moving forward. Again, the search feature, I have to come back to that. That's what makes it work for me, I think. So do we have another question, Matthias?
We did from the liberty of trying to answer it, but the question might be interesting for everybody. Susan was asking if each channel has a password.
I think you can set it up that way, so that if you make your channel private, you're only going to invite team members. So I believe in your preferences, you can set it up that way. But you can only join. I mean, I could try to join. If Alan or Guylaine or Matthias set up a channel and did not need me or want me to be part of that team in that channel, I could try to get in there, but I wouldn't be able to.
Right, and you need to be invited by the owner, right? By the owner.
You need to be invited by the person who initiates it, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Maria. Chris has another question too, and
sure.
He's asking, is there a way to reach out to members who are not in a certain group? So searching Slack members by keywords or something like that?
I don't think so. I think it's very much driven by the channel.
Okay.
So you can search by topic, but you can't search by person.
Right. Okay. And can you tell
because what you're essentially doing is, it's kind of two layers. You're creating a team, and then that team, you're creating some channels that team is going to communicate through. See what I mean?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Makes
sense. David also has a question. Can you tell us
more
about what you typically search for? Discussion threads, specific messages, documents, videos, or something else?
I search by topic or theme.
Okay. And
that's how the search works. Sorry?
And Norma Jean is asking, is there a limited number of users per channel?
No, I don't think so. They say that they don't say anywhere that there is a number, but what I noted is in the Slack for nonprofits, it's up to 250 members.
Okay.
They'll give you a deal on the standard. So I'm thinking that might be a signal that there would be an upper limit.
Yeah, which could easily.
But I don't see it anywhere else in the documentation.
Thanks, Maria.
Any more questions?
No, that's it for now.
All right. So now I'm going to talk about how we could use Slack, why we should use Slack, and then ask you what you think. This is what I came up with as I was preparing this presentation, as I've been using Slack for the last several months at Alpha Plus. Within the adult literacy field, we could create discussion groups. Okay, Slack would call them teams. And then we could organize channels around issues and topics that are really important to us, of which I know there are very many. Only team members can participate, so the communications are private and secure. No more email chains. I don't know how you feel about reply all, but I don't like it. It brings all conversation and communication together around a specific topic, and that goes to the create discussion groups. It's a place for us to talk to each other about the things that are important to us, either within our organizations, across our networks, with programs and practitioners, colleagues in our regions, across the province, across the country, across the world. Whoever creates the team, sets up the channel, has complete control over who gets to read it and who gets to join it and contribute to it. So it seems to me that it's a very good way for us to have those conversations. It also allows people to jump in and out of conversations. You're not forced to, but you can. You can look at your notifications and decide I'm only going to look at my Slack every week. Jump into the conversation. I think if we do that, if we have this opportunity, we're building a culture of collaboration and information sharing. I think sometimes it's easy to become or have a sense of being isolated in your work and wondering if other people are having the issues or the ideas that you're having, and you'd like to talk to people about them. So I think if we have an opportunity to build a culture of collaboration and information sharing, that's great. And I think Slack is probably just a useful, simple tool to help us to do that. It also, because it's asynchronous, that is to say, I don't have to be there in order to participate. I can participate later. It bridges those barriers of time and distance. I can ask somebody in North Bay to join my team around a particular topic, and that person can participate when she or he has time. So that need to be online at the same time, to be present at the same time, that's not there either. So I think from that point of view, it really helps us in our communications. And now I think I see another flashing question. No? No questions?
Not that I can see. Let me just check.
All right, okay.
No.
I have a very bad habit, sorry, in these webinars of not necessarily like getting sort of so focused on something that I don't look at the questions. So Matthias is my right-hand person in this, and then I get like overly enthusiastic about questions, so sorry about that. The other thing I'd like us to think about is how we could use Slack in the classroom. If you're working with a group of students, and I'm not saying this is going to work for every group or in every situation, but let's think, how could we use this tool in our classrooms? Could it be used as a back channel in the classroom so you can communicate with students? Could it be used as a way to quickly share files? Could you integrate apps like Google Drive to help, support collaboration between students or in group projects? If students have mobile devices, is Slack a way that you could perhaps leverage use of those devices in the classroom? And could you use it for communication between students in the class and between instructor and students? I think that it probably would require at least an intermediate level of digital skill, but I don't think it's that complicated to use. And I wonder if, in fact, it could be used as it would be a good tool for use in groups or in classrooms in adult literacy. Anybody have any comment about that? Would any of this be of interest to you as an instructor or a coordinator?
No comments so far.
Okay.
I'd rather make a comment.
I think what you probably will find is that once you start to explore Slack, you will see that in fact some of this might be possible, I think it would be useful to use it with some students and see what they think and see if it would be a good communications channel for you.
Norma Jean says, I think this would be good for PD for teachers.
Yes, that's excellent. Yeah, yeah. That would be a very good place to share what you're learning, right? Yeah, that's an excellent use of it, actually.
Yeah, and she says you could set up topics.
You could, sorry?
You could set up topics, right?
You could set up topics very easily,
Yeah.
and you could work on them together, and people could share their PD. Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me.
Good idea.
It's an excellent idea. An excellent idea. So, as we said earlier, Slack is free. The free version is wonderful. It's probably more than anybody needs. But they have set up two other Slack products. One is Slack for nonprofits. You apply to Slack, and if you're an eligible organization, and your eligibility, I think, is focused around whether or not you have charitable status, and in Canada, a CRA number. And in that case, you can get a free upgrade to the standard plan for teams of up to 250 members. So again, I think if it's something that you decide to take on, it might be very well worth looking into that particular program. Slack also has a Slack for, sorry?
Sorry,
did you just say something to me, Matthias?
Has a question for you.
Yes.
Do you receive notifications of new messages, or do you need
yes, you do.
to get updates?
Notifications, you can set it up in your preferences. You can receive notifications on your desktop and on all your mobile devices.
Cool.
And an email. So I have it set up so that I have a Slack icon on my desktop so I can see how many messages are in there waiting for me. I have an email notification, so every time I get a mention in a channel, I get a notification, and I also have it set up on my phone. So there's no way to escape Slack if I set it up that way. It's very, very useful, actually. Is that enough information, or do you need some more?
No, Susan says that's great. Thanks.
All right. The other product they have is Slack for Education, and again, you apply for that. The little bit of background I did, it's educational institutions, but that seems to include, or does include, programs like literacy programs, and it offers an 85% discount on their annual plans. So, for example, the standard plan is something like $7 per user, but it's billed annually, but you'd get an 85% discount. And again, you apply, you of course have to provide some documentation to prove that you are what you say you are, but it seems fairly straightforward. So again, if you decide to take it up, that might be something that would be useful. So I would check that out. And just like their guides, the information about Slack for nonprofits and Slack for education is very clearly written, very easy to understand. The process is very straightforward. So if it's something you're interested in, it's well worth exploring. And again, it depends on your need. If you want unlimited archiving, if you want unlimited integration of apps, Slack for nonprofits and Slack for education is more affordable. The standard package, is more affordable if you're using Slack for nonprofits or Slack for education. So again, worth investigating if you're using it more than you thought. But I think for most of us, to start out with the free version is more than enough. And again, I want to reiterate that the setting up of Slack is super easy. You simply go to slack.com and open an account. Use their guides to help you set up, to work through the various features and functions, because they are excellent. And you can always call on us for help. Now, do we have another question, Matthias?
Yes, David was asking if adult education programs are considered eligible for the education discount. So I think he's probably wondering if in the US they are eligible, since you've mentioned already that for the Canadian
If my understanding is, if you go through this is based on the documentation, if you go through the Slack for nonprofits, you need to have a charitable status. If you go through Slack for education, they say quite clearly that you don't have to be a formal educational institution. So it seems to me that they are thinking about community-based programs.
Thanks.
They're not just talking about school boards or colleges or schools.
And Norma Jean is asking, how do you compare Slack to a wiki? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think actually it's probably easier to use. That's my sense of it. Because, I mean, we also use a wiki at Alpha Plus, right, Matthias? But we tend to use it less and less. Yeah. Because sometimes it can get very confusing as you get more and more material in there. The organization becomes more challenging. Yeah. Whereas I find Slack, in terms of setting up the channels, it's very straightforward. Things don't seem to get lost. Yeah. Sometimes I find myself in a very big wiki wandering a bit before I find what I need. In our Slack, I don't find that. I wonder what you think, Matthias, having used both.
That Slack almost organizes itself. Like the wiki, you always have to organize. You have to put the links in the right places to the pages you're creating and stuff like that. You can do the same thing in a wiki, but Slack is automatically set up in a way that you have that structure to find the different channels or pages you would be creating in a wiki.
Precisely. So, I mean, that's what I would think, you know. As I say, sometimes when I'm in one of our wikis, I am going on a bit of an explore, but in our Slack, it just seems pretty easy to get into and find my way.
And
so any more questions?
And I could add file uploads are easier too, I think.
They're super easy. You just drag and drop.
It's very easy in a wiki to create a page from scratch, but to upload files that already exist, and then to integrate them into what you've already created in the wiki seems to be a little bit onerous.
Yeah, it can be. But the adding files, uploading files in Slack is super easy. You just literally grab them and drag and drop.
Yeah.
Are there more questions?
No, Maria.
Comments?
For now, that's it.
Sorry?
For now, that's it with the questions.
All right. So if that's it, then I think we're pretty much done, except I'd like to do one little quick poll, if you don't mind, just because I'm so proud of myself that I managed to do polls. Now, here's the last poll. It's 3 simple questions. I'm going to launch it. How do you think you might use Slack for internal communications, communicating with colleagues in the field, or with students? 100% communicating with colleagues in the field. Yeah, I think so too. I actually think it has some potential there. I'd like to think that we will try to use tools like this with students, but maybe we need to use them with colleagues first to see how it works and how useful it could be. But I think there is potential there to use it as a communication tool with our students and between students as well. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. I'm going to go to our, whoops, no, I'm not. I'm wrong. I just wanted to show you this, is that this is how Slack guides and Slack information works, and I just think this is brilliant. The introduction to Slack, it's a guide, getting started it's called, and then they do this little thing at the end called takeaways. And these are just things that to just focus on, right? Download Slack apps, use public channels when you need to, customize your notifications. As we said, you can customize them so you get emails, so they're on your mobile devices, so they're on your desktop. You can share files in Slack, And they have this, as I said, quite extensive app directory to integrate tools. So I just wanted to include this to give you a sense of, you know, how clear their information and Slack education, so to speak, is. I'm very impressed with it. Sometimes you get these platforms and tools, and the help or the guides are not that useful. But in this case, I think they actually really, really are. So that's, and I'm not working for Slack, not yet anyway, they haven't called me. So what I would like you to do is to participate in our feedback survey. It's very important to us to know what you think. It's very important that we know what we're doing well and where we need to improve. So we really do appreciate it if you can fill out this quick survey. I want to thank you for coming to the webinar. Hope that you'll take the time to explore Slack in your own context, and hope that you found it useful. And of course, you know that if you have any questions, you always can contact us, info@alphaplus.ca, or click the Just Ask button on our website. We're happy to answer your questions and to help you in any way we can. So I'll leave it there, but I invite questions and comments. So Matthias is going to let me know if there are any more. I'm going to stay here for a while to make sure that we answer all your questions. Thank you very much.